Greetings, Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, brought to you by Titan Law. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. America has a new president. What does this mean for Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world? My guest this week is the United States Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Brian Nichols. Enjoy this informative conversation. Ambassador Brian Nicholson, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor. You are appearing for the second time. Let me start off, Ambassador, by saying congratulations for the very smooth inauguration that took place on the 20th. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Trevor. It's great to be with you.
So, Brian, we have witnessed over the past 14 days, the 6th of January, what I call the West of America, and the 20th of January, the inauguration that we all witnessed being the best of America. Talk to me about your state of mind and emotions as you watch those two events, the 6th of January and the 20th of January.
Well, as the president said in his inaugural address, America's democracy has been tested, but we have risen to the challenge, and we have proven that our democracy is strong, that our institutions are solid, and that they're able to resist the naked, brazen assault that we saw on January 6th. The president, the vice president, so many people in our democracy have risen to the challenge, and we expect our nation to move forward with a renewed commitment and understanding to the importance of democracy and its institutions. Obviously, the events of January 6th were a shock to all of us, but we were able to persevere. The members of our Congress valiantly continued their work to certify the election, showing personal bravery. So many of our Capitol Police showed personal bravery, members of our National Guard to secure the area. And we also saw the then majority leader of the Senate, Senator McConnell, condemn the actions of those protesters and call out the former president for egging them on and creating that situation, as did the number 3 in the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, Representative Cheney.
So, Ambassador, what we saw happening on the 6th of January, sadly, was a culmination of what has been happening over the past four years, which is where, things like President Biden spoke about yesterday at inauguration, which is truth, respect, and decency, had disappeared. And instead, we had what one would call the alternative facts, alternative reality coming in, and to a very large extent, some form of division coming in. What's your sense as to, did things have to get to where they ended up?
Well, let me say that the vast, overwhelming majority of Americans are peace-loving, respectful, committed to democracy, and the president's call to move forward, his efforts to unify our nation, I have total confidence in him and in the entire leadership team going forward. And I believe that this challenging moment in our nation, as all nations do, face challenges from time to time. This challenging moment does not define us. How we respond and move forward is what will define us, and I'm confident in President Biden and Vice President Harris's leadership moving forward.
well, what we do hope that America indeed does move forward, but you must realize that that's going to take quite a lot of heavy lifting in terms of the fact that we're talking about a difference of 7 million in terms of votes between President Biden and the former President Trump. And in any case, Ambassador, 77% of Republicans are maintaining until the inauguration that they believe that the election was stolen. How tough is that going to be going forward?
Well, I think that as time goes on, the facts of what happened become clearer and clearer. And the the former president had the opportunity to make his case in 62 courts around the nation, and 61 of those courts ruled against him. Officials from both parties certified the elections in the 50 states and 4 territories. We have a decentralized electoral system, and I think that's a big benefit of our system, that there's no one button to push to change things. It's thousands of people at the local and the state level who come together and then deliver the results in the electoral college, and then that's certified in our Congress. The time that we witnessed people doubting the results, I think this was a hard-fought election, and unfortunately, the president at the time was not transparent, was not telling people the truth about the reality. He had the opportunity to present those facts that he had, and they were rejected by 61 out of 62 court cases, including 2 cases that went before the United States Supreme Court. So I think that the evidence is clear in that regard, but I think the important thing is that we have a united approach going forward to strengthen our democracy, to look for areas where we can ensure going forward that we address any issues that would impede transparency, that would be subject to these kinds of challenges, and that the commitment of the president and Vice President Harris is to strengthen our institutions and to move forward to build American democracy with confidence, but with humility.
So one would say, I personally never thought, Brian, that I would see what I witnessed on the 6th of January. I never thought I would see an American president refusing to accept the results of an election. Even now, as I was watching during the inauguration, I had goosebumps to see finally what we've always thought America was finally coming to fruition. Which brings me to a point, Brian, that constitutions are great. Great constitutions are great. Great institutions are great. But great institutions and great constitutions faced by men and women who are not principled will not stand. What's your view on that?
Well, I think that institutions, laws, constitutions are crucial for democracy because people can be flawed. You won't always have a paragon of democracy in every position. But I think the system of checks and balances that we have in the United States, our laws and our Constitution stood up to this stress test, and we survived, and we're the better for it. And moving forward, we will renew our commitment to continue to strengthen our institutions and continue to move forward in a way that allows us to realize the promise of America, the vision of our founders.
I must push that point, Brian, and the point to say America dodged the bullet. The world dodged the bullet. Watching those domestic terrorists marching into the Senate, I held my breath as Vice President Pence read the results of the certification of the college votes. And when he finally pronounced, I breathed a sigh of relief. That's how close this thing got, Brian. Talk to me about that.
Well, again, at crucial moments, the people who are charged with defending our democracy, with carrying out their duties, did so. Former Vice President Pence did so. His colleagues in the Congress did so in the large majority. And our officials at the local and the state level repeatedly did so, even under duress and under pressure from the highest office at that time. So that gives me great confidence in the American people and their commitment to democracy and the rule of law. And I know that during the confirmation hearings for several of our new cabinet officials coming in, they talked about both the officials coming in, if confirmed, and members of the Senate talked about the importance of strengthening our institutions and making sure that we look for ways to further bolster them, but also as we look to partner with our allies and partners around the world, that we also share the lessons that we've learned and work to help strengthen institutions in other democracies and nations around the world.
In parting, in his last video message to the world, former President Trump said he'll be back in one way or the other, and also that the movement that he had started would continue. It looks like America is going to be looking at the rearview mirror to see what this man does. Talk to me about that threat, Ambassador.
Well, I'm confident that President Biden and Vice President Harris will be looking forward, dealing with the challenges that America faces. We're dealing with the global pandemic that's taken over 400,000 American lives. We're dealing with the threat of continued recession, unemployment, other severe challenge that this president has inherited. So he's going to be focused on dealing with those challenges. And those of us who have the honor to serve in the government will be focused on serving the American people, supporting that effort going forward. The United States is a democracy, and that democracy, really the oldest constitutional republic in the world, is one where we can always get better. This was not a perfect union from day one. We all know that. But it's a country where we strive to form a more perfect union. And that's what our president will be leading us toward over the next 4 years. And that's our focus.
And indeed, the focus is going to be on the 17 executive orders that the president signed soon after inauguration. But before we get there, there is a small matter of the impeachment, which I gather that it might take as short as 3 days. There's a school of thought, Ambassador, that says the president spoke very strongly about unity. Impeachment poisons that sense of unity and that drive towards unity. Should we forget and let lying dogs lie?
Well, each branch of government has its constitutional responsibilities. In our system, the House of Representatives has the ability to determine whether or not it will impeach an official, including the president, and it's exercised its authorities in that regard. And now it will be the Senate that determines how to conduct the trial for impeachment. And impeachment is similar to an indictment. It's a charge, and the trial is conducted by the Senate. And that's for that branch of government to determine. I think the independence of our system, the checks and balances that we have are great strength for us, and we will continue to use that strength and to respect the different branches of government.
So, like I said, Ambassador, I think the world breathed a sigh of relief watching the inauguration. But the truth, it must be said that the past 4 years, Ambassador, has weakened America's standing as the beacon of hope, as it were, as the city on the hill. What message do you have for the world at this particular moment, looking still in disbelief, although hopeful about America's role going forward?
Well, the president has been very clear that America is going to move forward in the world. You alluded to the 17 executive orders he signed on day one. That role in the world, he certainly went straight toward that. We will remain in the World Health Organization. We're rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. So we are taking concrete steps to resume our role in the world. And we're taking concrete steps even today. And at the time of this filming, I just want to note that two things happened today that I think will be of interest to your viewers. One is that had the honor to turn over 20 brand new ventilators to the Solidarity Trust of Zimbabwe that will be used in 4 hospitals to help Zimbabweans dealing with this horrible, horrible COVID pandemic. And my condolences go out to all Zimbabweans who've lost a loved one in this incredibly difficult time. And our leading infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, announced that we will be participating in the COVAX, the global consortium to support vaccine deployment to low and middle income countries, which is overseen by the WHO. So that combination of those steps gives you a sense of what this administration is going to do moving forward. We are committed to partnering with our friends, allies around the world, and our commitment to the people of Zimbabwe, which has been in place since independence. 1980, we were the first nation to open an embassy in this country. We've given over $3.5 billion in assistance to Zimbabwe. And now with this latest donation, we'll be providing over $20 million just in COVID-19 assistance. And that gives you a sense of what this administration is going to be focused on.
And I think speaking on that, Brian, maybe if you could go into detail in terms of clearly the uplifting message that President Biden shared with the world during the inauguration is a sense that there's a plan for re-engagement with the global stage. Speak to me outside the COVID initiative, which is absolutely welcome. There's the reinstatement of the global unity in the National Security Council, which in itself sends a very strong message outside. There was also issues around border control and immigration and lifting the Muslim ban. Are there any other issues, Brian, that we ought to be expecting coming from the Biden administration that shows a different, rather a change of direction as far as foreign policy and engagement is concerned?
Well, the president has 4 decades of experience working on foreign policy issues. He's been all over the world, and he's bringing an incredibly experienced team with him. Secretary-designate Tony Blinken, Linda Thomas Greenfield, who's well known to many of your viewers, who was formerly Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs and will be our permanent representative to the United Nations if confirmed, and the Domestic Policy Council Chair, Dr. Susan Rice, also has held that role. So there's a lot of people in this administration, Deputy Secretary Designate Wendy Sherman, and the list goes on, who are well versed in international affairs and affairs on this continent. I believe that the experience that we've gone through in terms of our own democracy will underscore the commitment of our entire leadership to promoting democracy, the rule of law, respect for human rights going forward. Those have been tenets of our foreign policy in Zimbabwe for quite some time. So I think those things will not change, but there will be some new elements to that. And I think that the focus on working closely with others is something that this president values. He's negotiated with partners around the world, as I said, for 4 decades. So I think that we're going to see an administration committed to partnership and engagement, but also committed to the values that we hold dear in the United States of democracy, rule of law, respect for human rights.
Indeed, that sounds, Ambassador, that is going to be a big change from America First policy, which tended to be a lot of unilateralism as opposed to multilateralism. Talk to me about that, Brian, please.
Well, I think we've already seen it on day one, rejoining the Paris Accord, rejoining the WHO, or abrogating our withdrawal, to be more precise. Those are signs of that commitment to working together with others. The problems of this world cannot be solved by any single country. They require a joint effort among the international community. And our president has said that we want to lead by the power of our example. He's designated former Secretary of State Kerry to lead our climate efforts. That is an incredible mark of the importance of these changes. You've seen with the executive orders that he signed on day one. He's pushing hard for renewed, strong standards on emissions in the United States. He's taken steps to stop the Keystone XL pipeline, which is very controversial in the United States because of its effect on the environment and climate. And obviously the WHO participation and COVAX participation, again, show that we are committed to working with others. But all of that said, our president and the administration believe that the steps that we take always have to be for the benefit of the American people. That's something that's vital. We're here to serve the American people first and foremost, but the president believes, and certainly I believe, that serving the American people is best accomplished when we work with others around the globe to solve these problems that are too complex, too broad for any single nation, no matter how powerful, to solve on its own.
Comforting. I mean, you've named quite a number of people that are coming back to the administration, names that are familiar to us. One name that's pretty familiar to me is Samantha Power, and good to see her coming to take charge of USAID. Sadly, though, a lot of damage, Ambassador, has been done by Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Secretary of State Mark Pompeo. What Africa will need some reassurance that it just doesn't matter to America insofar as it is a field for competing with China, that Africa matters in terms of developing deep relationships that are win-win and of mutual beneficial. Speak to me about that, Ambassador.
Well, again, we're not a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to supporting the people of this continent. And I want to specifically, again, stress the people of Zimbabwe, where we have, for 40 years, been the strongest supporter for the people of Zimbabwe. I think that the leadership team of this administration is incredibly accomplished and incredibly focused on delivering benefits for average people around the world. We have to deal with the challenges that we face in our time, which are once in a century types of challenges, maybe once in humanity types of challenges when you get to the issue of global climate change. And the way that you deliver for the peoples of the world is to provide them with a more economic opportunity, a cleaner environment, a green economy, green jobs. Some of the things that we're doing here already, and I think will continue, for example, our efforts to combat wildlife trafficking in Zimbabwe, working with a range of actors. This is an incredibly biodiverse country with some of the largest elephant and rhino populations in the world. And I congratulate the people of Zimbabwe for that accomplishment. And we want to help you deepen that, for example. Obviously, issues of health here are ones that we've talked about a lot. This is a country that's on the verge of epidemic control for HIV/AIDS. We're really right there. And we talked about that in December at World AIDS Day, that even in the midst of all of the challenges over the last 2.5 years, this has been an incredible success story for a country with this big of a challenge going in to have reached effective epidemic control. And the challenge now is to hold that progress, deepen it, and make sure it continues. So I think that's something else that we will see as a focus of the new administration. This is a committed, experienced team, and I think we're going to see great results. I know that all of my colleagues in the State Department and the broader national security community are very, very bullish, very happy to be moving forward with such strong leadership.
We all excited, Ambassador. I mean, speaking for myself, watching the inauguration, like I said, is perhaps one of the highlights for me for this year. But it cannot be escaped, Ambassador, that, and this is an important lesson, I think, for America, for Americans all over the world, that when America behaves badly, America gives cover to a lot of bad people across the world, to dictators and so forth. And I want to use an example, Ambassador, of our own president, President Mnangagwa, tweeting soon after January the 6th, that this same government that has been telling us how to behave as far as democracy is concerned, look what they're doing. These same people that impose sanctions on us, look what they're doing. So what America does, how America behaves, matters to the world. And the past 4 years has been a terrible time for the whole world. Speak to me about that, Ambassador.
Well, President Biden has said that he's going to lead by the power of example. And I think that the United States is going to prove going forward, and has already proven, the strength of its democracy and the strength of its institutions. Rather than looking at just the snapshot of what happened, there's no perfect humans. So the question is, what are the laws, what are the institutions that are in place to ensure that the rule of law and democracy move forward? So in our nation, despite the threats to our democracy, we saw the Congress certify the election. We saw President Biden and Vice President Harris sworn in. We've seen the Congress take steps to investigate the events that took place. We've seen the executive branch, the Department of Justice, take steps that have resulted in hundreds of arrests of people who were engaged in violence. We saw on the actual day, January 6th, the police and later National Guard who were there used an economy of force to resolve the situation and respected human rights in the face of gross provocations. And they also safeguarded our members of Congress who were doing their solemn duty at that time. So it's easy to be proud of your democracy when there's no challenges. But when there's challenges and you overcome them, that is the test of democracy. And we have done that in the United States, and we're going to keep moving forward. The people who engaged in that lawlessness, that mob, the threats that they made, they will be investigated, brought before courts of law as appropriate, and they will have their day in court. On a national level, the causes are being investigated both by the Congress and the executive branch. And I've only asked in Zimbabwe that the events of August 2018 be investigated and that the results of that investigation be implemented. What I recently said, again, was that the Motlanthe Commission recommendations have not been implemented. That's something that we in the international community, is not the United States. You've seen a number of countries speak out again this year, reminding that those recommendations have not been implemented. The events of January 2019, those events have not been investigated properly. No one's been brought to book as a result of the state-generated violence at that time. I met with some of the victims of violence here from January 2019, and those people are still waiting for justice. But that's an issue of institutions and the rule of law. And the lesson that I take from the events in the United States is that we need to help our fellow countries around the world deal with their institutions in a way that makes them stronger, to set up a legal framework that supports the rule of law, democracy, and human rights. And I know that the commitment of this administration to do those things will be unwavering.
Let me talk to you now about Foggy Bottom, which is where most of your bosses sit. The sense that, there has been, to a very large extent, low morale, vacant posts, frequent turnover, and so forth. And I suspect that there's going to be a lot of sighs of relief as far as diplomats such as you are concerned. I'm now looking at you, Ambassador, sitting here and saying, are there things that you couldn't do over the past 3 years that you'll be able to do in Zimbabwe going forward? Because the heavy hand of Foggy Bottom is going to be slightly much more professional. Speak to me about any change in course as far as your array of projects in Zimbabwe are concerned.
Well, let me just stress that it's very early days. The Secretary of State designate has had a confirmation hearing, but he has not had a vote yet as of the time of this filming. I am very optimistic that he will be confirmed expeditiously, as will his leadership team. And I think it's more appropriate for me to wait until they've taken up their duties, subject to the advice and consent of the Senate, before I can unveil any significant changes in our policy framework here. What I will say is that in my conversations with members of Congress and their staffs from both parties, there has been a remarkable unity of views about Zimbabwe. And they again rest on the issues of respect for democracy and its institutions, the rule of law, and human rights, as well as market-based economic policies. And I believe that one of the unique features of the relationship that we have with Zimbabwe is that there is a US legal framework, a law that lays out what it is the United States would like to see happen in Zimbabwe. And that doesn't exist for most countries. And that's an opportunity both for the government of Zimbabwe and the government of the United States to sit down and say, here are a list of things that we're concerned about. If you move in the positive direction from our standpoint on these issues, our relationship will improve. We've told you in black and white what we care about, and we look forward to seeing progress on those issues and to working with you to see progress on those issues.
It sounds like you stepping onto the issue of sanctions, which you and I have had a very passionate conversation about. That this could be an opportunity.
Yes, we have.
This could be an opportunity on both sides to open that conversation with a view of resolving the issues. You and I are agreed that there's issues that the Zimbabwean government needs to do in the interest of the Zimbabwean people to ensure that the sanctions are removed. It's early days yet because the Senate processes are still to unfold in terms of confirmation. Do you see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, or you would say the onus is on the Zimbabwean government to do what we've said needs to be done in the interest of the Zimbabweans?
I would say the latter. It's the Zimbabwean government. The ball remains in the court of the Zimbabwean government to move forward on the types of reforms and accountability that our legislation calls for. And the legislation that exists under ZDERA also is echoed in the omnibus budget for the current year. So that language exists not just in legislation from 2018 or legislation from 2003 or 2001. It's been voted on again just in the past couple of months. So that's something that continues to be in the forefront of the minds of our members of Congress.
Let's talk now about, Uganda has just had elections. And in the Ugandan elections, President Museveni shut down the internet. We've had a situation where in America, it's Twitter, Facebook, and these big tech companies that decided to deplatform President Trump because of his, the lies that he was propagating using those platforms. That puts us in a very difficult situation. What's your view, Ambassador, in terms of how we deal with this issue going forward? There is the option of allowing the governments to take the initiative, shut down social media if it becomes a nuisance, or allow the tech giants to shut down dictators because they're a nuisance. Where should we fall?
Well, the United States Constitution says that Congress shall make no law abridging the right to free speech or a free press. And that is a very specific context. The companies that put forward speech in the modern era technology, which I'm sure that our founders really would be gobsmacked if they were to see it now. But whether you're looking at Twitter or Facebook or other platforms for social media or even traditional media. They are media. That, you look at that word. You're conveying something from one place to another, conveying the words of people or images of people from one place to another. So their actions in that regard are far different than the government taking an action to prevent an individual from speaking. The actions that we've seen in a number of countries, I don't want to single any country out specifically, though you make the recent reference, but it's happened in Zimbabwe. It's happened in other countries in Europe and Asia as well. It's not unique to Africa. The importance of the state facilitating a marketplace of ideas where democracy can flourish is vital. And whether you like it or not, I have on multiple occasions said to the government of Zimbabwe that there should be a license given for television broadcast to the companies that Trevor Nube is running, because that would open up the political space and give people more of a marketplace of ideas in this country. And when you look at the things that we've been asking for over time, one of those things has been broadcast licenses. And when you look at the broadcast licenses that the government of Zimbabwe has granted, they have gone to institutions that are linked to the military or the ruling party overwhelmingly. And if I just take my wealth and say, okay, my wealth is only going to me and I'll give some to my brother and to my other brother, that's not really spreading the wealth. It should go to alternative voices. When you look at the technological changes that the world has seen, the social media voices, yes, there should be a diversity of opinion and views, but when it's the company making a decision, I think they have the ability to decide what it is that their platform is going to allow or not allow.
I get you. Although, I mean, I must go on record and say, the moment that the American ambassador says that Trevor should, his companies should get a television license, that's a kiss of death right there. But in any case, let them.
So I said whether you like it or not.
No. Ambassador, you've been serving now almost 3 years. What does this change in administration mean for your assignment and for your deployment? Are you going to be staying on? Are you going to be moving on, or you are waiting for a tweet to come in from 16 Pennsylvania or Foggy Bottom?
So I'm a career diplomat. I've been in the Foreign Service for over 31 years now, and I am honored to serve my country in this role. And I serve always at the pleasure of the president, and I hope that the president will remain pleased with me. I will await his determination and the advice of his Secretary of State as to what my duties should be within the Foreign Service. And I hope that I'll have the opportunity to continue to serve the American people wherever they find it convenient.
Fascinating. It's been great having you, Brian. But before I let you go, me and books. There is this book that if Americans had read when it was published, maybe the tyranny that America has just experienced might have been avoided. I recommend this book, Brian, to you and Zimbabweans and everybody, who is interested in democracy and who wants to see the telltale signs of tyranny. This is a fascinating book by Timothy Sidney on tyranny, a great book. What books are you reading, Brian? You've been
Well, let's go to the bookshelf, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get this one.
Yeah.
And this one.
Mm-hmm.
And, my kids came and they took some of my books. So I'm a little bit frustrated. Here's an oldie but a goodie.
Fantastic.
So let me show you a couple of books from my bookshelf. So here's a book, Democracy Works.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I think, a great book. And it's written, one of its authors, its co-authors, is a man I like to call Tendai Biti.
Oh, right. Right.
So I highly encourage folks to read this. And it talks about the importance of democracy around the world, but also how it directly affects Africa and how it will make Africans more prosperous and allow them to realize their goal. So this book, Cast, by Isabel Wilkerson, this is a fascinating book. It was an Oprah's Book Club selection from 2020. It's about the issues of caste in America, and highly recommended. Fascinating study of the history of race relations in the United States and the analogies between those relations and India, for example, and how their caste system is a great lens to understand the issues of race in the United States. And here's a book, Zimbabwe Art. It's this, as I think I said this to you last time we talked, but Zimbabwe is a country with phenomenal contemporary artists. And I've rarely seen any place with such incredible creativity and talent, where I guess no one is a prophet in their own land, but your artists are gaining ever greater international acclaim, breaking records at art shows around the world. Your countrymen and women should be enormously proud of what you are doing in the contemporary art space. I'm talking about London, New York, Los Angeles, Paris, Berlin, people putting on shows that are really taking the breath away of the top critics and buyers in the art world. So I congratulate you on the artists of Zimbabwe.
Fantastic. Brian, were you to be deployed elsewhere? It's been a really pleasure, like I said, having you as America's ambassador to Zimbabwe. You speak your mind. Sometimes you shoot from the hip. You and I disagree and agree from time to time, which is as things should be. What will you miss most about Zimbabwe? Were you to be reassigned?
I'll miss a lot. I think the first thing that everyone says about Zimbabwe is the wonderful people. That can be seen as trite, but it's true. And I've had, I won't name and shame them, but I've had colleagues, African ambassadors, say to me that how wonderful it is to come to Zimbabwe, and we all feel it. When you're even at the airport and people are so friendly when they're greeting you in the immigration line, even. when you're out and about and just talking to people, they're so wonderful, so welcoming. That's the first thing that I think about for this country. And then it's such a beautiful country. I was just in Wangé National Park over the holidays, and Metetsi, and the natural beauty of Zimbabwe is absolutely stunning, and something that you just don't see in many places around the world. And I mentioned the success that Zimbabwe's had in preserving its wildlife, and that's something that's remarkable. Even in other countries in the region can't say that they have the kind of wildlife that Zimbabwe has. And then the third thing is the climate that allows you to do so many wonderful outdoor activities, and that's something people. It's an open secret in the Foreign Service that Harare has the best climate of any place in the world. So I feel very fortunate to have been here, and not that I'm like running away, but I'm very glad to be here, and glad to keep trying to advocate on behalf of my nation for the benefit of the people of Zimbabwe, to help them have a better life and realize their goals.
Fantastic. Brian, thank you so much for creating the time to join us on In Conversation with Trevor, to share insights as to the inauguration that we saw, and to say, indeed, I see the world stock markets reacting to the inauguration of President Biden and Vice President Harris. The world is looking forward. There's something positive that's happening. A sense that if things go well in America, there's a chance that things will go well throughout the world. I mean, the news that you've just shared now, Brian, about Dr. Fauci saying America is going to be part of COVAX, that's great news. We didn't think that would happen. We thought that vaccine nationalism was going to be the thing that was going to happen. So, Brian, thank you so much. Remain there, Brian, and allow me to address our viewers now who are all over the world, in Zimbabwe, in the diaspora, and all over the world. So thank you for continuing to support this show, and to remind you that In Conversation with Trevor is a weekly show. We come out every Monday at 7 a.m. And to ensure that you don't miss out on these quality conversations, please click on this red button and subscribe, and you get an alert every time we have this quality conversation. So until next time, cheers to you all.